Charlotte Hayes had spent nearly 2 decades building the technological backbone of Harbor Point Plaza, a sprawling commercial complex overlooking the waterfront. While hundreds of employees occupied the glamorous upper floors, very few people knew that Charlotte was the architect responsible for the systems that kept every office connected, cooled, and operational every second of the day. On a quiet Tuesday morning, Charlotte sat alone in a private workspace reviewing a detailed infrastructure proposal that would determine the future of several major tenants. She was carefully analyzing performance data when a loud voice interrupted her concentration from only a few feet away. "Hey, you there," the man barked impatiently while snapping his fingers several times. "I've been trying to get your attention for a full minute, and our video conference is freezing every few seconds." Charlotte slowly lifted her eyes and recognized the speaker immediately. His name was Brandon Keller, a young executive whose confidence far exceeded both his experience and understanding of how the building actually operated. Brandon crossed his arms and pointed toward a nearby conference room where several investors appeared on a giant display screen. "Our presentation starts soon, and the connection is terrible," he complained loudly. "Stop whatever you're doing and fix it immediately." Charlotte remained calm despite his tone and replied politely that she was not a member of the technical support team. She explained that any networking issue needed to be reported through the company's official maintenance portal so the proper department could investigate. The answer only irritated Brandon further, and his face quickly reddened with frustration. In front of dozens of employees, he slammed his hand against a table and declared that people in support roles were becoming increasingly useless throughout the building. Without bothering to ask who she actually was, Brandon pointed toward the elevator lobby and announced that she was no longer welcome on the floor. Several employees exchanged nervous glances as he confidently declared that she was fired and should leave immediately. Charlotte quietly closed her laptop and placed several important documents inside her leather briefcase. Instead of arguing, she simply stood up and asked one question, making sure everyone nearby could hear the answer. "To be clear," she said calmly, "you're terminating our professional relationship effective immediately?" Brandon nodded proudly and told her to leave before security became involved. A faint smile crossed Charlotte's face as she collected her things and headed toward the elevators. She wished everyone luck with their upcoming investor meeting and disappeared behind the closing doors while Brandon celebrated what he believed was a display of authority. The reality was very different from what Brandon imagined, because Charlotte was not an employee of his company at all. She was the independent systems director who controlled access to specialized services that powered much of Harbor Point Plaza's advanced infrastructure. 20 minutes later, while enjoying coffee in a quiet cafe across the street, Charlotte received the first message of many. The building's operations manager had just learned what happened, and his text contained only 4 shocked words: "Please tell me no." Back inside Harbor Point Plaza, operations manager Daniel Mercer stepped into Brandon's office carrying a contract folder and an increasingly worried expression. The moment Brandon casually admitted that he had removed Charlotte from the premises, Daniel's face lost all color as he realized the company had just made a catastrophic mistake. Daniel immediately explained that Charlotte was not a support technician, an assistant, or a contractor waiting for instructions from executives. She was the private infrastructure administrator whose agreements controlled premium access to critical building systems used by several major corporate tenants. For the first time all day, Brandon's confidence began to crack as employees around him listened in stunned silence. The realization that he had publicly insulted and dismissed one of the most influential people connected to the property left him struggling to find words. Meanwhile, Charlotte returned to her private office located in a secured operations wing beneath the main complex. Surrounded by monitoring screens and engineering reports, she carefully reviewed every service agreement connected to Brandon's company while documenting the termination of negotiations. Because no updated contracts had been finalized, several optional services automatically reverted to their standard configurations under existing policies. Priority bandwidth allocation, enhanced cooling support, advanced conference room systems, and premium facility privileges were all removed exactly as outlined in the original agreements. The effects appeared gradually throughout the afternoon as employees began noticing slower uploads, reduced network performance, and delays in various automated office functions. What seemed like random technical inconveniences were actually the predictable result of losing access to premium services that had previously operated behind the scenes. By early evening, Brandon's leadership team was overwhelmed with complaints from multiple departments struggling to complete important projects. The investor presentation that was supposed to secure future funding became increasingly difficult as connection quality continued to deteriorate. Desperate to regain control, Brandon repeatedly called Charlotte and sent increasingly urgent messages requesting immediate assistance. Unfortunately for him, every request arrived after he had already terminated the professional relationship that authorized her involvement with his company. The following morning brought even more serious consequences when Brandon's father, company founder Richard Keller, arrived unexpectedly at headquarters. After reviewing witness statements, emails, and contract records, Richard quickly understood the full scope of the disaster his son had created. Witnesses later described the meeting as one of the most uncomfortable moments they had ever seen inside the company. Richard openly apologized to department leaders and admitted that arrogance, assumptions, and disrespect had nearly cost the organization a valuable business relationship. While Brandon struggled to repair the damage, Charlotte attended a meeting with another expanding technology firm that had been searching for premium office infrastructure. Unlike Brandon, the firm's executives listened carefully, asked thoughtful questions, and treated Charlotte as a respected professional whose expertise deserved recognition. Within hours, Charlotte finalized a long-term agreement that redirected significant resources toward the new tenant while generating substantial revenue for the property. The deal benefited everyone involved and demonstrated how professionalism and mutual respect often create opportunities that entitlement destroys. Several weeks later, Harbor Point Plaza continued operating smoothly under Charlotte's guidance while Brandon's reputation remained a cautionary tale throughout the business community. Employees frequently discussed how quickly assumptions can lead to failure when people judge others based on appearances rather than knowledge and experience. The experience taught an unforgettable lesson to everyone who witnessed it. True influence rarely announces itself with loud titles, expensive clothing, or aggressive behavior. The individuals who quietly keep systems running are often the very people whose contributions matter most when challenges arise. Months afterward, Charlotte stood near the waterfront watching the city lights reflect across the harbor as another successful project reached completion. She felt no satisfaction from Brandon's embarrassment, only pride in knowing that professionalism, patience, and competence had ultimately spoken louder than arrogance ever could. Please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends and family. We create entertaining and inspiring stories for our viewers, and your support helps us continue making great content for you.